to UAD 3.6, the biggest appraisal change in 20 years, what lenders need to do before Q4 2026. And we are lucky enough to have our OG preferred partner, Dart Appraisal, here with us for this webinar. And to kick things off is Michael Dresden, the CEO. So Michael, I will just pass it over to you to do your thing.
Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. And privileged to represent TMC and Dart Appraisal on this very important webinar. This is the biggest appraisal change in 20 years. That is the transition to UAD 3.6. We're going to talk about a lot of things today, but the most important thing is what lenders need to do before Q4 of this year. So looking at an agenda, we're going to talk about what is UAD. We're going to talk about dual path ordering, what the GSEs are looking for. We're going to talk about why they're doing this, talk about dynamic reports and static forms and the difference between the two. We're going to talk about the impact on lender workflows, and we're going to talk about what we need to do to prepare for the transition. So I thought we'd start with a quick poll. Just want to get a feel for how familiar you are with UAD 3.6, either very, somewhat, you've heard of it, but you're unsure, or this is the first time you've heard about it. All right, so it seems like most people are somewhat familiar. Okay. So what is UAD? It's a Uniform Appraisal Data Set. It's a standardized appraisal data framework that was introduced by Fannie and Freddie 16 years ago. Applies to all the key appraisal forms, all the numeric forms. Think 1004, 1073, 2055. Uniform definitions were created in this data set. Think C1 through C6 for condition ratings, Q1 through Q6 for quality. Requires consistent data entry across all appraisals, and it enables some really cool things like automated review, validation, and analytics. So before we go forward, I thought it'd be important to go back in time. So an appraisal is an opinion of value. It's communicated to the intended user through a report or a form. So 100 years ago, an appraiser would say, hey, your house is worth $4,500. He'd write it on a piece of paper and say, trust me. And that worked for kind of a long time. And then at a point in time, though, lenders said, hey, I need a little bit more detail. So you started to see some support for that opinion of value. In the 80s, the Opelka family delivered the Green Hornet, which any of you that were in the industry in the 80s would remember. In the 90s, coming right out of the savings loan crisis, FIREA was enabled, and you started to see a new report. And then in the early 2000s, we got tired of gluing pictures to pieces of paper and FedExing appraisals. We wanted to deliver those electronically through email. So you saw it start to get digitized. And then in the 2010s, you saw a transformation into the new UAD, which allowed for more transmission of data. If you look, though, the report looked pretty similar from the 90s and 2000s into the 2010s and today. So now we're going into a big shift, and that is transitioning from current to this UAD 3.6. It's really going from reports and forms to data. And we needed this to modernize and create some new digital standards. So the time is now. I'm not trying to be too dramatic with this, but it is now. The initiative started back in 2018. It was paused during COVID, like many things got paused. The training got started back up in November of 24. The GSE policy updates were released in June of 25. The ULDD mandate started July of 25. The limited production phase started in September of 25, ran through January of 26. Limited is the understatement of the century. There were very few reports that were transmitted during this limited production phase, yet it was enough to move forward into broad production, which is where we are today. So we are currently in broad production where anyone can transmit a UAD 3.6 appraisal to the GSEs between now and November 2nd, at which point it's mandatory for all deliveries. Now, you can't wait until November 2nd because that's for deliveries. So you have to order in October, but you can't wait till October because you need to ready your systems and train your teams. So the time is now. That's kind of how we worked backwards to that. Now you can still deliver a 2.6 to the GSEs up until May of next year, but that's for revised reports or updates, not new deliveries. So currently when you order an appraisal, there's typically a drop down with a bunch of numbers. You could have 40, 50 different choices of what to order for an appraisal. Going forward, you're going to have three. You're going to have one, which is going to be a new appraisal. Think a new value on something or a review of that. Two would be a final inspection or a completion report. And then the third one is going to be a recert of value. So it's going to be streamlined from many choices to three. You're going to have to provide a lot more detail for each one of those three choices, though. So question might be, can I still order a 2.6 appraisal going forward? The answer is yes, but it's going to be in certain circumstances. So think properties that are ineligible for Fannie and Freddie. Those are still going to be available in the 2.6 system. Think about any transactions not being sold to Fannie or Freddie. If you work with different investors, they may still allow 2.6. I would say over time, though, the industry will probably standardize, and it seems like we typically standardize to things that Fannie and Freddie dictate. So I could see the industry over time transitioning to 3.6. So it's important for everybody to pay attention to these big changes. So the biggest changes is how we're going to consume data. So how are we going to enter data in when we're placing an order? So we're not going to just select a form type from a drop down. We're going to describe what we need appraised. So that's going to be different. The appraiser is going to change his entire process. He's going to collect a lot more data. And then the data transmitted to the lender and then on to the investor is going to be much more comprehensive. So it's all about consuming data in a different way and providing a lot more of it. So why 2.6 to 3.6? Why not 2.6 to 2.7? It's kind of like an iOS update. When you go from 17 to 17.1, it's typically a minor change. When you go from 17 to 18, it's a major change. And that's what we're looking at here. It's a complete system redesign, new generation, dynamic data model, UCDP is being updated. As I mentioned before, there's a ton of data that's being added to the collection and transmission. We're going to have new data fields, new formats. There's going to be increased automation, which is going to be good for efficiency in the long run. We're going to have different workflows, different software requirements, different software introduced, more structured commentary, more standardized inputs, just a lot of changes. So 2.6 to 3.6 to help emphasize that. So what data are we talking about? What's this expanded data? Well, 3.6 is going to include expanded property and improvement characteristics. We're going to get more information on construction, renovation, a lot more emphasis on ADU units and details on those ADUs, enhanced comparable sales data, structure, condition, and quality ratings, even more so than what we saw in the last UAD, site location and market data updates, energy efficiency, feature level attributes are going to be included, and then a detailed inspection observation, even more so from what the appraiser's seeing today. So how much more data is this going to be? Well, a typical appraisal today might have 200 data points. I think that's going to remain for, cookie cutter homes and homogeneous neighborhoods. But if it's complex or unique or there's something special, you could see up to 1,000 different data points going forward. Will you see 1,000? Probably not. But my guess is you're going to see more than 200. So as I mentioned, processes are going to get impacted all over the place. One thing that's going to happen, the appraiser is going to have to start from scratch every time. We actually think this is going to be a really good thing. The process of producing that appraisal report is going to be more like a TurboTax, where you answer a series of questions and how you answer those questions dictates the next questions within the software. It's going to eliminate things like cloning. Sometimes appraisers get a head start on the next report by cloning a previous report. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. But that's going to help. It's going to reduce errors. It's going to reduce revisions and some of that back and forth that we have as an AMC with an appraiser as well as a lender with the appraiser. The reports are going to be cleaner. They're going to be clear. They're going to be more ready for the investor. And we feel that's a really good thing. So I want to share some things that we've heard. So one thing is it's just a new form. That's the only change here. Well, we've just heard that's not the case. There's a lot that is changing with UAD, and it's all centered around this data, the transmission of data, the collection of data, and then the end consumption. Only appraisers are affected. Well, we know that's not true. I mean, appraisers certainly will be affected, but everyone on this call will have some impact as a result of this change. We've heard I won't be able to order a 2.6 in Q4 of 26. Well, that's not entirely true, too. There's some situations where a 2.6 is completely appropriate. And while Fannie and Freddie haven't said they're going to extend the date, in the event they did extend the date, then you would still be able to order a 2.6 going forward. But as of right now, it's November 2nd. We've heard if I accidentally order a 2.6, I'll just convert it to a 3.6. Well, you can't do that. It's a completely different process. So the entire process would have to be initiated as a 3.6. The last thing we've heard is fees and turn times will increase. Well, that's probably true. We're hearing feedback from appraisers initially that the process is going to take longer for the collection. The inspection is going to take longer. The analysis is going to take longer. Plus, there's a learning curve. So I would expect appraisers to charge more initially. Now, maybe over time, that fee will come down as they learn some of the efficiencies and we start seeing that in the process. But initially, I believe that we're going to see higher fees. The best way to vet that out is to start early and start producing some reports through this new 3.6 process to prove that out. Turn times will increase also. I think initially, as you know, with this learning curve, appraisers are learning, AMCs are going to be learning how to process, lenders are going to be learning how to underwrite the new data. I just think with any kind of change, you can expect a little bit longer turn time. Hopefully, over time, it will even out and even get reduced. So one more quick poll here. Just wanted to see if anyone's completed a 3.6 that's on this call. I'm expecting a lot of no's just based on the data that we saw during the limited production phase, but I'm interested. Okay. Limited, very limited, which is as to be expected. So again, the time is now. We need to start now. And next time we do one of these, we'll have a bunch of yeses. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Erica. Erica's going to talk now about the operational impact for lenders, really the meat of the presentation and the very important part. Oh, Erica's muted.
Try again. Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. In this section, I'm going to cover specific areas which will require action to make sure that you can request and receive UAD 3.6 appraisals. First up is your LOS. Loan origination systems must be updated in order to process these UAD 3.6 files. Many LOSs have already completed or are at least working on the necessary updates. On Fannie Mae's UAD 3.6 webpage, you'll see a lot of instructional resources that break down what's needed for this. Specifically, you'd be looking for Appendix A, B, E, and G. So connect with your tech team, confirm that they are on track. And as soon as you have confirmation that your LOS is ready, begin some testing. Place 3.6 orders and take them all the way through to delivery to identify any items that may need to be fixed before you can go live. Now, the UCDP, the Uniform Collateral Data Portal, which processes SSR submission summary reports, also required updates in order to accommodate the changes that come along with UAD 3.6. Those updates have been completed, and you should not have to re-enter seller numbers or any other information if you're already set up to submit with UCDP. If you have a 3.6 test order to work with, submit that to UCDP to ensure it goes through and to ensure that your system can receive and properly analyze the newly formatted 3.6 SSR that would come back. Next up, appraisal ordering. There will be some changes to the workflow here. In the world of UAD 3.6, it's not just about selecting a numbered form from a dropdown. More pieces of information will be requested up front. And while this may take some time to get used to, it'll mean that we have more clarity from the start, which should mean less confusion and fewer changes later on. When it comes to the fields that will be included on the order form, 3.6 is not removing any fields that are on a typical appraisal order form today. It is renaming a few current fields and adding a few new ones. So I'll cover those on the next slide. But as far as what you can be doing now, prepare your staff. Prepare anyone who will be collecting information from customers or placing appraisal orders. They should be very familiar with all the fields on the order form, focusing especially on the new fields and renamed fields to avoid having to go back multiple times to gather what will be needed. A couple resources I can point to from Fannie Mae's UAD 3.6 webpage would be Appendix C and the Industry Guide to the new URAR. It's free and filled with interesting detailed modules. Now for the order form fields I mentioned. First, I'm going to go over a few pieces of information that you're already used to including on an order form, but the titles might be a bit different now. Take, for example, property valuation method. For property valuation method, think inspection type. Look at the first one on the list, traditional. Traditional is what we're used to seeing as part of a 1004, 1073, 1025. The appraiser visits the property, inspects the exterior, and inspects the interior. And then next, after we see exterior and desktop options, you'll notice there are also options here for field review, desk review, and conversion. When it comes to that conversion option, I want to make sure this is very clear. This is talking about converting, say, conventional to FHA. This is not talking about converting 2.6 to 3.6 or vice versa. That would be a whole new order. You're essentially starting from scratch in that situation. For the property types on the top right, you're probably familiar with all of these. We have single family, condominium, co-op, manufactured, and 2 to 4 unit, previously known as multifamily. You may also hear this one called small residential income property. If you select that 2 to 4 unit property type on the 3.6 order form, you'll specify if the subject property has 2, 3, or 4 units. This typically wasn't broken up on most order forms today. And with any of these property types, you can also specify if the subject property has an accessory dwelling unit. So while the presence of an ADU is confirmed by appraisers today within today's reports, say the 1004, it hasn't been included as a question on the typical order form until now. Moving to the bottom left, we see mortgage type, so conventional, FHA, USDA. We'll also have an other option in this category if something else is going on with the financing that you might need to explain to us. Below that, we see valuation assignment type. This is the list of loan purposes that you're used to seeing: purchase, refi, HELOC, new construction, etc. And now we have arrived at the new fields. These are the ones that are going to require some additional pieces of information that you're probably not used to including on an order form. Construction method, that's looking at whether a subject property is site-built, modular, on-frame modular, manufactured container, or 3D technology. There will be an other option for this field too, along with a lot of the others on here. And quickly, I'll say, DART Appraisal wants to ensure when you're placing a 3.6 order with us, that we provide the clarity you need to feel confident that you're selecting the right answer here. So for these new fields I'm covering and a few of the other ones on here, we'll be providing right on the order form the Fannie Mae definition for each one of these selections. Next field to look at is property attachment. So for this one, you'll see attached or detached with the detailed Fannie Mae definitions for each. And then bottom right, we have property rights, fee simple, leasehold, community land trust, and property usage. So primary residence, investment property, second home, with the Fannie Mae definition for each one and an other option for each of these categories as well. So we've really tried to give you all of the background you'll need right on the 3.6 order form, so you don't have to reference anything from another location while placing an order. But if you do think of a question that isn't specifically answered on there, or perhaps there's something else you're running into as you prepare for UAD 3.6, we're very happy to assist you with that. DART Appraisal has a public webpage covering all things UAD 3.6, including FAQs and links to Fannie and Freddie information. You'll notice that at the top of the slide. And we also have a special email address checked by our UAD team, which you're welcome to reach out to. That's uad@dartappraisal.com. So please visit our website or reach out to us via email if there's anything on this that we might be able to assist with. Moving on to quality control, we will see a lot of benefits in this area as we move over to UAD 3.6. First up, major updates were required for appraisal softwares. The two biggest players in appraisal software are ready, and there are many other appraisers that are coming in that are also ready. Initiating a 3.6 order in pretty much any of these softwares is very different for an appraiser than what they're used to from 2.6 orders. So we've been talking to our appraisers to ensure they're training, they're experimenting within their chosen software so that they're ready to handle real 3.6 orders. And the software providers are continuing to add features for 3.6, getting smarter about report compliance. There's built-in validation that can catch missing or inconsistent data before the appraiser ever completes and submits the report. So that's going to mean less AMC and less revisions from lenders later. Now, looking at DART appraisal specifically, just kind of on the AMC level, there is a lot that we can do to make the review process easier by the time a report actually gets to you. So we have something called DART PreCheck. This reviews key data points as soon as the appraiser submits the report, and it actually sends any flagged issues, potential issues, back to the appraiser to address while they're still sitting right there at their desk. So this keeps things moving faster. Next, we have something called DART IQ. This is a rules engine which allows us to flag possible issues before our licensed appraiser reviewers begin their review. And I want to call out, by the way, this tool is 3.6 ready and can be fully customized to your lender-specific requirements. We can catch those too. And then we have collateral underwriter, which I'm sure most of you are very familiar with, as lenders have always had access to CU, but new for 2026, Fannie and Freddie have allowed access for select AMCs. So now this allows us to see that information, head up some of it, and gives us generally greater transparency prior to delivery. So on the risk assessment side, what should you be doing? Well, again, prepare your staff. Prepare anyone who will be reviewing UAD 3.6 reports or handling them in any way once they have been delivered to you. A few Fannie Mae resources I'll point out would be on their UAD page, Appendix C, D, and F, and also the industry guide to the new URAR and the UAD 3.6 selling guide supplement. I did mention a few of these when I was talking about preparing your front end teams, but it's even more important for this end of the process. This is a whole new report layout with a lot of new data fields. You'll need new internal checklists. You'll need to update appraisal condition and revision request procedures. And you'll probably need to update review timing expectations, at least temporarily, as your team settles into new processes. When it comes to your AMCs and any other vendors you partner with for appraisal-related items, keep the lines of communication open. We are all navigating this transition to 3.6. It can be really beneficial to all sides if we're able to navigate it together. So here at DART Appraisal, we are researching, we're preparing, and we're happy to help you as you prepare your systems and your teams. One thing, we are encouraging all of our clients to set up testing with us. The sooner the better, so we can smooth out any wrinkles we find, and we can all go through Q2 and Q3 knowing that we are ready for November 2nd. So ask your AMC partners, are they ready? Do they have all the new ordering fields mapped? Can they accept and deliver zip files? Do they have access to collateral underwriter? DART does, but many don't, so it's worth checking. So as we move through this pivotal year, I think it's important to be realistic when setting our expectations. This is a big change, arguably the biggest change our industry has seen in 20 years. So during this transition to UAD 3.6, I think we'll occasionally see disruptions in ordering or processing files due to all these system changes. We may see a temporary uptick in revision requests as everyone gets used to the new format and requirements, and we might see a slightly slower turnaround time for these types of orders as everyone figures out really what the switch to UAD 3.6 is going to mean for their daily processes. But also, I think it's important to highlight what we stand to gain from the switch to UAD 3.6. This new format is going to give us way more data, and the data will be structured in a way that allows us to do more with it. New evaluation and risk tools, benefiting from many new forms of automation, will eventually lead to quicker review cycles and reduced risk. So whether you're hesitant or excited, it doesn't change the fact that UAD 3.6 is here. The time is now. Don't wait. Get in touch with all of your teams and partners, start testing, set yourself up for success. And if there is something, anything that DART Appraisal can do to help you achieve that success, connect with us. We're here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Erica. Another quick poll. Just want to see what concerns you the most. Technology, integration, appraisal workflow changes, underwriting training, or you're just not sure yet. Looks like a bit of a mixed bag to be expected. Well, we're here to help in any of those areas that we can. But the biggest thing that we want to talk about today is, how to best prepare yourself. And we prepared a checklist here for you. Biggest thing is communicate, talk to your teams, especially your tech teams, make sure there's readiness across the board. Talk to all the vendors that you're working with, communicate with your LOS and your vendors to make sure they're ready. As Erica had mentioned, that's so important. You got to plan for this dual path ordering for a period of time at minimum. You're going to have to be able to process both 2.6 and 3.6. So consider ways that you can plan for that dual path. So ensure your system's ability is there to ingest this new zip format. So it's not just all the additional data, it's taking a zip file and extracting the data from that. That's not something every system can do right away. All those legacy UAD fields have to be mapped to the new elements. Most of your vendors are going to do that for you, but really important for you to, oh, we just lost our screen. We'll go back one or two. Identify the areas that are impacted in your organization. Very important to not overlook any. So ask a lot of questions, communicate early, and don't leave anybody out. Document your workflow changes. That's super important as well. Check UCDP and the integration delivery. Make sure that's working and testing the delivery and submission to the investor. Train the underwriting teams, retrain the underwriting teams and get ready for that. And then coordinate with your AMCs to begin testing. And the sooner you can do that, the better. We need to see the UAD 3.6 activity. The appraisers need to see it as well as you. It's just the more that we can push through the system to train and process now, the better for later. So as Erica mentioned earlier, we're ready. We've been ready for some time. Our system's been ready since January of last year. It's what we do. We're built on UAD and the progression over the last couple decades. We're a pioneer in system readiness. As I mentioned, we've been ready for the UAD 3.6 for 15 months now. We have a website resource center, which is fantastic. I encourage everybody to visit that. It's on our front webpage. We have enhanced processes. Our QC process is fully customizable from the moment we receive that report from the appraiser until we deliver it to you. And we just have a proven compliance culture. So we're excited. We're ready. We want to be a resource for you. There's a lot of change and a lot of things to navigate, but we want to be here as a resource. If you do have questions, I'd encourage you to email those to us. The best way to get a hold of us is through uad@dartappraisal.com, but you can also reach out to us directly through the website. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Amy, for hosting. Really appreciated the time spent today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael and team. Great information, and we'll be sure to pass this along. Yes, as Lon said, we'll send the deck that you just went through along with a follow-up email and a copy of this webinar as well. I would also encourage you to, if you have operations teams, if they're not already on our ops working groups, this is something I'm sure that we're going to pass on to them as well to be discussed. And those are monthly, go on our member event calendar, and you can join in those also. Well, that is the end of the webinar. Perfectly timed. Well done, Michael and team. We appreciate you. As Michael mentioned earlier, before the call, DART Appraisal has been one of TMC's, has been the #1 TMC preferred partner, the first one since 2014. So we value their partnership very much. So thank you all very much. Look out for that follow-up email coming from me, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.